Hello, Pauline Gallagher of the knitting class here. Today I want to talk to you about the German short row. So in an earlier video we looked at how to work a short row using the wrap and turn method. Today we're going to look at a slightly different method called the German short row. And the way that it's worked is that, as with the wrap and turn method, you're going to only work part of the way along the row. So I'm going to knit down here until I have 4 stitches left. Then I'm going to turn and work back. So these stitches will remain not knitted, and in effect they'll be in the row below the stitches which will appear on the needle as I work back. So when you do that, when you turn, and if you turned without taking care of that turn, then what would happen in effect would be that the last stitch on the edge would behave in the same way that stitches behave at the edge of your work. So if we look here at the edge, you'll see that the very last stitch on the edge tends to turn out to the side. And if I can uncurl that, you can see here the edge stitch is right out on the side. It curls to the side, and if you didn't do something to take care of that turning point when you're working short rows, what would happen would be that that stitch turning to the side would in effect create a little hole right at the turning point. So what we're going to do in this method, the German short row method, is when we reach the turning point, we're just going to turn our work, and then you've got to do 3 things. Number 1, make sure that your working yarn is on the front side of the work, that is towards you, and here it is, it's in place. That's grand. Number 2, you're going to slip the first stitch purlwise to the right hand needle. So when you're asked to do something purlwise, that means that you should bring your needle into the stitch as if to purl. And then we're going to just slip it across without working. And then the third thing is to tug on the working yarn to the back of your work, and that has the effect of pulling up the stitch below onto the needle and creating what's known in the German short row as the double stitch. So that's the technique done. So there was 3 steps. Number 1, make sure that the working yarn is in front. Number 2, slip the first stitch purlwise to the right hand needle. Number 3, tug on the working yarn up and over to the back to create the double stitch. Now I'm going to work back along, so I'm going to purl to the other end, and again we're going to do a short row, so I'm going to purl until I have 4 stitches left. So first I've got to bring my yarn forward in order to purl, and then I'm going to purl until we have 4 stitches left. And once again, when we turn, we're going to have to work the German short row method to create the double stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 4. So number 1, turn the work. Number 2, make sure that the working yarn is in front. Slip the first stitch purlwise, then tug on the working yarn to create the double stitch. And you see, when you create the double stitch from the knit side, it looks as if the 2 legs are crossed over each other, but that's okay. That's just how it looks. So now again I'm going to work another short row, and this time I'm going to leave another 4 stitches. So what we're going to have on our needle not worked will be the 4 original stitches from the first turn, then the next 4. So when you meet the double stitch, you treat it as 1 stitch. So we count that as 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to just turn here and work back. So, oops, where am I? Oh, that's good. So I'm going to work along 1, 2, 3, 4. So the double stitch counts as number 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn my work, check that my working yarn is in front, which it is. Slip the first stitch purlwise, tug on the working yarn to the back of the work to create the double stitch. And again, I'm coming to the front in order to purl back. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, and here's number 4. So I just have to go 1 stitch this time. And again, turn my work, make sure that the working yarn is in front, slip the first stitch purlwise, and tug on the working yarn to create the double stitch. So there we go. Now, at some stage you're going to end up knitting across all of the stitches, which I'm going to do just now. When you meet a double stitch, you treat it as one entity, and you go ahead and go in as if to knit 2 together. And if you're not sure where that double stitch is, you have 2 clues. Number 1, of course, is that the double stitch has 2 legs, and that's clear enough in this piece of knitting because I'm working on double knit fabric. But if I was using a finer yarn, it might not be so clear. So the other clue is that a gap always appears to the left of the double stitch. So if you're looking along your row of stitches trying to decide where the double stitch is, look out for the gap and then the double stitch. Now, so I'm going to work along, treating that double stitch and working it, treating it as one entity and working it as if I was doing a knit 2 together. Now I'm going to work all the way back along the row. So I'm going to purl to the end of the row, and again we'll meet 2 double stitches on the way. And so this time when we meet the double stitch, we will again treat it as a single entity and work it as if we're doing a purl 2 together at that point. So here we go. Purl to the end. Looking out for the double stitch on the way. And one more. And here's our double stitch. So we're going to go in as if to purl 2 together. Work to the next double stitch. And again go in as if to purl 2 together. So now when we finish this row, we'll just have a look at the right side and the wrong side of the fabric to see how it looks. So just looking at the fabric, thankfully there are no holes, and that's what we were trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid holes appearing in the fabric. Also, when you look at the wrong side, I mean, it's not really very noticeable where those double stitches were, which makes the German short row method a great short row method to choose if you're working on a project where both sides of the project are likely to be seen. For instance, if you're working short rows in a shawl, German short row method is just a great option for that. So that's it, German short row method. Remember, number 1, turn your work. Number 2, make sure that the working yarn is in the front, that is towards you. Number 3, slip the first stitch purlwise to the right hand needle. Number 4, yank the working yarn over the top of that needle to the back to create the double stitch. And that's the German short row method. Okay, so thank you for watching. If you find this video useful, please make sure to give it a like, and if you're not already subscribed to the knitting class, go ahead and subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you will know when I post more tutorials. So thank you, goodbye, and happy knitting. Bye.